Blake production.
What's poppin'? We're going to break down some of these oil stocks real quick. So oil, precious metals, and a bunch of other commodities. It seems like those are the markets that are like, really popping right now, which kind of makes sense in terms of like if you think about what's going on in the world and how Russia and their oil supply is now being, halted or whatever. I don't know too much about the fundamentals, but from a basic perspective, that's what I understand from it. So there's going to be less supply, and of course the demand is always going to be pretty high. Like we need oil to drive our cars and shit like that, right? There's not really many commodities in here. Maybe if you guys can leave some comments down below of some stocks that relate to commodities, I'd be glad to go over that. But for this meanwhile here, we have this Canadian Sgy, Surge Energy. It's a Canadian oil stock, and it's showing us great signs of an uptrend in strength, demand, etc. So we have like two kind of bull flags here. One's real short, the other one's a little bit longer. Actually, I would mark this as some sort of a triangle in my opinion. We have a solid resistance point holding us back, and then we have like a rising trend line here. If you point it up like that, you could make this some sort of a triangle. So we play in this range, really bullish. Every dip is being bought every time it makes a little dip in this stock. When we look at the bearish volume, it's pretty low compared to the bullish volume, right? Massive spikes with no massive bear spikes. That's like something that is a good sign. And then we get that breakout. We also, if you zoom out to the weekly time frame, there's a massive trend line holding us back for a long time here. Now we're getting that breakout on it. So this could be going a lot longer than we might be prepared for, right? So that's why I want to be going over this in the next few weeks. This bull flag, clean bull flag. And then we got the break today, increase in volume. We got earnings coming up March 9th. So what I'm expecting to happen in this stock is there's going to be some sort of increase in price until we get to a point where it's going to have to correct a little bit, right? So I'm going to be paying attention to the Bollinger Bands, right? We're starting to get to the upper Bollinger Band, and we're breaking up above that, which means at some point this is going to get too far extended from its 8 EMA, and it'll want to make some sort of a pullback. So that's something we're going to have to pay attention to in this name. That might come after earnings. It might come before. We really don't know. But for the most part, what we're looking for is to see price get to a point and then come back down, so then we could buy that dip. So right now what I'm paying attention to is this $8 range, and if that's going to hold as support in the future. So SGY right now, the price action is looking great. So the opportunity is definitely here, right, to buy the dip when it comes. We got CPG, another triangle here in this stock. So if we zoom out to the weekly, right, there's this massive cup kind of pattern going on here. So we can mark that out. And this is what we like to see. Another oil name just getting, this is the market that's printing right now. So right now I have this 1146 range as resistance, and it looks like we'll probably want to make our way up there. The weekly time frame looks great. The 8 EMA looks great, right? Look at the bearish volume. Not much in the past, right? Since the beginning of the year, not much bear volume whatsoever. So we want to pay attention to this. We had a bad earnings, but look, we're still holding this uptrend. So what I'm looking for is the potential of holding this 8 EMA as it goes, right? It might just do something like this where the 8 EMA continues to rise as price does, or we might get some sort of back test of this resistance point that we broke over, and to see if it's going to act as support. So that's a few different things I want to look for here on CPG. When we look at ARX, this one is very similar, right? Massive cup, and we're now trying to break over it. So what I like about this name is that if you're looking at it from a daily perspective, even if we zoom into the 4 hour, it's making some decent patterns here. So we can mark out this triangle, and it's getting that back test of the breakout right now, which is clean. That's something we definitely want. We have some consolidation that forms a triangle. We break out, we test this resistance point, and then now we're back testing that triangle, and now we're continuing upward. Everything looks solid here. I think that if we could hold this weekly 8 EMA, right, and continue to have it rise, we're in good shape. So again, right, massive spikes in volume here on the bull side. As long as we don't get any crazy bearish volume, I think this will be a go still. When we check the Bollinger Bands, right, what we could also be looking for is if we're just going to be playing in this range where we're testing the upper Bollinger Band, coming back to the middle Bollinger Band, and then we keep going up like this, testing the upper one, testing the middle one. And that's showing us that there's a strong uptrend going on, right? If you just look back, that's what's been going on for the past, since July 2020. Once we broke up over the middle, it then plays between the middle and the upper Bollinger Band. And that is a sign that it is a strong uptrend. Even though we break down a little bit, strong price increase. So that's a good sign. These are things that we want to see continue. If they don't continue, those will be our signs to maybe hold off on the trades a little bit. So we got NOG here. We ended up getting that weekly breakout above this trend line, and now what I'm thinking is we're going to be playing in this range in between this major resistance and the trend line before we get that move upward. It looks a lot easier to see from this weekly perspective, but overall we got a solid uptrend since 2020, and maybe even if you're looking at it from this perspective, we could potentially have an inverse head and shoulders here. So this inverse head and shoulders is a sign that price could increase. And once we break this zone, right, we want to hang around here. This resistance at $27, $28, we want to $29, sorry. We want to hang around this range now, weaken this zone, and then get that breakout, because then we would be trying to test this $41 range potentially, which would be great for the bulls. So again, if we break out of this inverse head and shoulders, this is the next zone that I'll be looking for to see if we're going to test it. PBR, this one is getting held back, and it looks like we're testing that 8 EMA, so I want to see us hold that range. But for the most part, as long as we could hang around this upper trend line here that's holding us back, I think that it's still a good sign. I'd be paying attention to this lower trend line as well, because that could be in play, where we have some sort of support line holding us back once, twice, 3 times, 4, 5 times. We might come back down to that range, test it again. If it does, that would be a buy opportunity, in my opinion, to go long to see if we can get that breakout. So that's the oil breakdown piece.